So today, I want to talk about Percy Jackson and the Olympians, and one of the more controversial character dynamics that played out in the books. So we're talking ships and shipping here today, and more specifically, the ship of Lukabeth. Oof. So for show-only people, or those who are not in the know, this is the ship of Luke and Annabeth. Indeed. A big part of the story of Percy Jackson is the budding relationship between Percy and Annabeth that plays out over the course of the books. And in this case, it's going to play out over the course of the show as well. This is the obvious core ship, and you see it come closer to fruition with every single installment of the original series. But of course, there are some roadblocks along the way. Roadblocks that are there to build drama. After all, it took Harry Potter until like the final 2 books for the proper endgame ships to even appear, so yeah. Percy has that thing that never really eventuates with Rachel Elizabeth Dare, and she ends up becoming the new Oracle, so nothing really happens there. But regardless, they have that going on for a little while in the story, and then also for a time, even after his betrayal, Annabeth clearly is simping for Luke. She has romantic feelings. And yeah, I know they try to retcon it later on. In chapter 19 of The Last Olympian, she says, "You were like a brother to me, Luke, but I didn't love you." But it's like, yeah, sure you didn't. Blatant retcon aside, that dynamic takes up a fair chunk of the early series. But it was a dynamic that never really was reciprocated, or so we thought. Like I said, that's all good with me. They're young teens, or rather, she's a 12-year-old girl. In Lightning Thief, he's like 19 or something. He's hunky, he's handsome, he's cool, he's caring. Her having a crush on a person like that does not seem like a big deal to me. And it adds a bit of nuance to the show. It gives her that denial factor. The belief that of all people, she can pull him back from the brink. That she can save him. And it doesn't work out well for her. But it does add to the story. And then when he dies, he can apologize for betraying her. He can lament he betrayed his little sister figure. And it's all very tragic. But hey, no, said Rick, because he for some reason wanted to add a little bit of extra flavor to this, and for some reason decided that also having Luke have feelings for Annabeth is the way to go with that. And it was very disgusting. Gross as all hell, because by this point he was a full-grown adult, like early 20s, mid-20s, and the last time they met, as not enemies, she would have been about 12 years old. Come on now, that's creepy, that's gross. Ugh, you know exactly what it is. Yuck, yuck, yuck. And it's made even more yuck by the fact that in his diary entry from the Demigod Diaries, he thinks about how of the group of Thalia, Luke, and Annabeth, as he is the eldest, aged 14, he needs to be the one who holds his new family together. That he views himself as the dad of the group. That's right, the dad of the group. Then he's crushing on his daughter by the end. Ew. Like, no, why, Rick? Why? What? Actually, why? Legitimately, why? How did he ever think that this was going to be a plot point that gelled well with the characters and the story being told? It feels so out of place for him to suddenly be, well, pretty much a pedo. Like, I'm not here for the comments that are going to say, oh, technically it's not pedophilia, it's hebephilia. No one cares, mate, it's gross. Was him being the bad guy, the traitor who killed other demigods, not enough? Now he also needs to be a dude who's creeping on a girl that he'd looked after and treated like a little sister? Nah, man. That's some nasty shit. Nobody wants to see that, outside of a few scattered fan fiction writers. But like, you know, compare the 12,000 or so Percy Annabeth fics here to like the not even 200 Lukabeth fics that exist. Clearly nobody wanted, or ever wanted this ship. Nobody has it as their forbidden fruit, their rare pair, their anything. Get out of here with this shit, Rick. You cannot actually be serious with this. I mean, let's be honest. As the books have gone on, I have noticed that a lot of his writing decisions become pretty dank and bad. Let's be real. The overall world is good, but some of his decisions are just bafflingly stupid. But this has got to be one of the worst ones of all time. It's just absolutely insane. And so I do have to ask, is it going to be a thing in the show going forward? Do you think this is one of those instances where they're going to say to Rick, nah dog, we're cutting that out? Or do you think he even realized that this is the type of thing that never needed to be in the books to begin with, and so is going to be completely snipped out of the show? So yeah, that's really the question. Should it be cut, and will it be cut? And those are two different questions. In terms of should, yes, it should. One of the things the show's really hammered home in this first season is that the gods are bad parents. At their best, like Poseidon, they're absentee. They're deadbeats, and they let horrible shit play out. At their worst, they are actively cruel to their children. They don't love them or care about them at all, like Ares. Their help is second-rate at best, like Zeus turning his kid into a tree. And I mean, compare that to Poseidon saving Percy from becoming a pancake. They're playing in different leagues here. And in some cases, like when Athena, in a fit of rage or whatever, punishes Annabeth by pretty much signing her death warrant against the Chimera. What a lovely mother. But like I said, they've really gone out of their way to make the gods seem terrible, very bad, and thus a character like Luke, who, whilst being clearly delusional about what he's done, is actually kind of making a good point about how their own parents see them as tools to break the rules for them and then discard them at will, a means to an end. And so a character like that comes across as very, very sympathetic, and it adds nuance to the show. On top of that, the bond between Luke and Percy, it feels more genuine here, like Luke actually cares about Percy. He doesn't want to hurt him, he doesn't want to kill him, he just wants him to understand, to listen, to help bring him into this new era where the gods can't mistreat them anymore. And he looks genuinely heartbroken when Percy rejects him, and then when Annabeth reveals herself and says she knows everything. And then the story actively goes out of its way to tell you that neither Percy nor Chiron think that Luke's actually going to try and kill Percy again when he's out and about, which hints that there's not a malicious intent from Luke to Percy. That bond between them is still there, if damaged. And so I think this makes him a more tragic character than he was before. In the books, he snaps, and he does a full 180. Here, I don't think they're going to do that. He's not suddenly going to be this evil psychopath who doesn't care about anybody and wants to kill the people he used to protect and lead. No, that's stupid. They've got to frame it as him doing this for the greater good, and I think they will. And so, to do that, keep this weird pedo storyline away from him at all costs. Otherwise, there's no point in making him feel tragic, as his degenerate nature wipes it away. On top of that, look at the actors they've cast. Look at the age difference. In the book, maybe, and this is me being very generous, maybe Rick didn't visualize how different age-wise the two characters would look. How different they'd be. But yeah, the age difference here, it's immense and gross and disgusting. I think maybe 5 or 6 years between the actors? Nah, no thanks. I do not want that poor guy to have to act that shit out. And so I think already we have our answer there of should they do it? No, because it will ruin the angle they're taking with Luke's character and it is very icky. No thank you. And so this leads us into will they do it? And honestly, I truly think they will not even try. I think it was dead on arrival. Some Hollywood writer has read that part and crossed it out with a big red marker. Nope, straight to jail, do not pass go, do not take $200. Get out of here with that trash. It's a terrible look for your show, especially one that you're advertising as, for kids, and just does not work at all. You do not want to romanticize that shit to people. Not now, not ever. And I think we've seen the beginnings of that in play already. I got no real vibes that this was in the cards for their storyline. I mean, they hardly even interacted. Like I said, they've played Luke as far more sympathetic. And so I don't think they're going to be so tone deaf as to include this. And I mean, on top of that, it felt like he was teasing Percy and Annabeth for clearly, flirting with one another, as much as 12-year-olds can, on that truck to Vegas. And then on top of that, a big part of the initial build was that Annabeth would have a very obvious crush on Luke. That was clear from the get-go. And on top of that, she was way more standoffish with Percy because of their godly parents and the rivalry between them. Their dynamic would take a little bit of time to develop, but here, they were heavily investing screen time into making sure the audience understands from the get-go that this is the romantic endgame. They pretty much cut out the godly rivalry altogether, and they showed that there's a deep connection between the two right from the beginning of their story, with more and more moments in each episode. The hug in St. Louis, the two of them sticking together in the casino and thus their bond preventing them from being overtaken by the memory magic, the stuff in Waterland or whatever it was, their constant attempts to sacrifice themselves for the other, their reluctance to leave the other behind, their pep talks, that look they share in the car leaving the casino. Yeah. There's no time for Luke for this daughter of Athena. I mean, maybe they'll do the denial storyline where she thinks that she can bring him back, but even then, no, I don't really think they're going to do that because she catches the dude red-handed and it looked like she straight up was going to kill him when it looked like he was going to finish off Percy. If so, yeah, she's well and truly cut the cord. And beyond creepiness, it's just for the best. It gives us more time to flesh out the continued Percy-Luke rivalry/tragedy. They've invested a lot of time into making them seem very close in a short span of time. And I expect if anybody's going to keep trying over and over to pull Luke back from the brink, it is going to be Percy. Because he seems like the kind of person who is wholly unable to let anybody he cares about come to harm. But we'll see. So yeah, no thanks, Lukabeth, get lost, you freak. And so with all that being said, these have been my opinions, and I'd like to hear yours. What do you think of the Lukabeth ship? Do you think it's going to make the cut? Maybe not. Do you think it should? Hopefully not. I'm curious for your thoughts, so make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and let me know.